What it do? Snackers, Snackettes, and Snack X's. Your boy Gage is in the building with the homie Jokes. Give me the double yo.
Yo, yo.
And you are now tuned into Loading Snacks Weekly, where we get together once a week and we talk about things that are happening in pop culture. And
Today?
today on this lovely Tie Tuesday, we are going to discuss what I think a lot of us feared. Netflix backing out and Warner Brothers and Paramount coming to a decision to combine forces. We're going to talk about High Guard, a relatively recently released game that is shutting down. We're going to have a discussion about Scream 7 and its global box office. And then we're going to talk about it's Women's History Month. So we got to show some love. So the top five, these are my top five ladies of the traditional MCU. I'll explain what that means later. You stay tuned, you find out. Before we get into any of that, Jokes has a job to do.
Boom.
And so Jokes will, of course, put our website up in the chat for anybody who's out there. You can go there, check us out, see what's going on with us, follow us across social media, and you can support us on Patreon, which is really one of the best ways to support us. It allows you to have the opportunity to do so monetarily, which allows us to keep doing what we're doing and travel and get out the shows and all that kind of stuff so we can keep bringing you all this goodness that you get on a weekly basis. And having said that, it's time for the 619 Patreon Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so let's shout out our top tier patrons, starting with Anthony Cunningham, Marcus Houston, Susan Dortch, Tyrone Carson, Meticulous Skin, Alex Lee, Ellis Mbe, and Kermit Ferguson. Thank you very much. We truly, truly appreciate it.
Indeed, we do. Thank y'all so much for hanging out. Now, it is time for what had happened was WHHW, which of course is last week's news. I forgot to tell y'all that last week. It's over there somewhere, right, Jokes? Way over there somewhere. I need you to hook me up.
Number one.
In our first little bit of news, it's a bit of a doozy, right, Jokes?
Yep.
Warner Brothers and Paramount have decided, I guess, to merge. Decide is not the right way. Paramount is going to acquire Warner Brothers, assuming that all the regulations go through and so forth. This after a lot of back and forth. We talked about this multiple times on the show. It really looked like Netflix kind of had it in the bag, and there was a continued push by Paramount to really make this effort, continually saying that they were offering a better deal. Warner Brothers being like, nope, we're good with Netflix, and then coming back with another deal and coming back with another deal until last week. Paramount finally offered a deal to Warner Brothers that Warner Brothers liked, and they gave Netflix 4 days to respond. And Netflix said, nah, dog, we're out. They didn't even try. They didn't try to match it. They didn't try to beat it. They said, nah, we're not doing this. Which, look, I think is understandable. If multiple times you've come to a decision that you've made a business agreement that we're going through with this deal, and then you keep changing it or keep backing out of it or, whatever, and now you want to keep pushing, the pricing up on me. Like, I'm not, I could see, kind of getting tired of it. There was a lot of pushback, obviously, about Netflix, purchasing Warner Brothers, a lot of fear, on the Hollywood side and so forth, that they would change, how long movies stay in the theater and all that kind of stuff. And the CEO of Netflix was doing interviews with people last week saying no, we would keep it traditional,
Mm-hmm.
blah blah blah. Under the this particular deal, it is $110 billion deal. Okay, um, and obviously it doesn't go through unless regulators choose to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of thought that it's gonna go through because these are friends of Donald Trump's, and so they're gonna try to probably
Push it
usher
and,
it through.
and do.
Yeah. Regardless, but we got to kind of talk about what it really means for us. There is already talk of Paramount Plus and HBO Max merging into one streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
This deal would give the combined company control over showing based on contracts that are in place the NFL, the Olympics, UFC, PGA Tour, NHL, Big Ten, the Big 12 football, NCAA college basketball, the Champions League. Obviously, there's some WWE thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. On top of that, um, a combined portfolio that includes franchises like Harry Potter, Mission Impossible, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, the DC Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Star Trek, SpongeBob SquarePants, like it just the list goes on and on. It is truthfully much more monopolistic, in my opinion,
Mm.
for Paramount to get a hold of Warner Brothers than it would have been for Netflix. Netflix has some IPs, but they don't have
As
IPs
many that
that
are
are
already established,
as
like
well known
Paramount. Mm-hmm.
or anywhere near as established as what Warner Brothers has and what Paramount has, having also just purchased Skydance on the
Mm-hmm.
UK side of things, right? So like there's a lot of that. Now they have agreed or stated that they will produce a minimum of 30 films a year, 15 per studio, 15 Paramount, 15 Warner Brothers, and promise that films will receive a full theatrical release window with a minimum of 45 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before streaming and so forth can jump on board. What are your thoughts, Jokes? What do you think?
Um, right now, like I guess you say, like I'm indifferent. Like I don't. I think just from what Paramount has said, I'll say it that way. You know, keeping theatrical and stuff the way that it should be. A lot of people were worried, obviously, Netflix taking them and a lot of stuff just at that point, straight to Netflix, which does get you now having to get into the Netflix ecosystem. So I like what I'm hearing about keeping at least 45 days. I think 45 days is fair enough. I think that's enough time for you to get those main runs in, switch to digital. I don't have any issues with that. Like you said, now Paramount with this is going to have the access now to some pretty heavy hitting IPs that are currently out there. So it's where do some changes and things may come into play, or maybe they start utilizing some of those IPs maybe that didn't necessarily get the full love and attention maybe that they actually deserve. So it's hard to say for that portion of it at least, but as of now, you know what? I'm okay with it. If Paramount Plus and HBO Max end up merging together as being one, it's like which banner do we see it float underneath of? Do they keep HBO Max, or do we still? I imagine they're going to make it Paramount Plus. Is probably going to be the main home for everything at that point. Um, I have Paramount Plus, so obviously I'm expecting if that goes through, that price that I'm paying
Yeah, but
monthly is
like, why do you have Paramount Plus?
Star Trek. Honest truth is really the only reason why I have it. And I don't always keep it. I get it during the time, really, honestly, when the seasons are on, and then once the seasons are gone, Paramount pretty much gets cut off because that's honestly the only reason why I have it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think anytime you have a merger like this, man, you're talking about thousands and thousands of jobs going away.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way that there won't be tons of redundancies. Um, it it not only puts this is a thing that is not just about the companies. This is a thing that puts so much control over so many IP and so many things, not just in the hands of one large company, but in the hands of essentially one family. Like
Mm-hmm.
one family would have access to all of this and control over all of it. And I think what's happening for a lot of people, and look, we try to keep this show from getting too far into politics, but these are the same people now would control all of this, are the same people that, you know, pull Colbert off the air
Mm-hmm.
and, because he's made a joke that Trump didn't like, or, you know what I mean? Like, so when we're talking about politics and how it affects our media and the things that we can do and them having control over what can be said and done and what we can see and what kind of content they make. We talk about the same things when we know that Saudi Arabia was making a
Mm-hmm.
purchase of EA, right? And that EA was no longer going to be public. That the way that they run things and do things is different from the way that we see and run and do things, and that will have an effect on all of these things, all of these franchises, right? So what happens to these franchises if they decide that, I don't know, a woman can't be a lead role for a particular thing, or
Mm-hmm.
any number of things, right? So there's a lot more to it other than just all the IP is under one banner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it is political, right? And it is about, specific freedoms and what you can see and what you can. It isn't just control over the IPs. It is control over CNN and other news stations
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, right? So look, there's going to be a lot of pushback. I think, some states are already, planning to push, regulatory concerns and that kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
to keep it from happening. If this deal goes through, because of the deal that was already made with Netflix, Netflix gets paid by Warner Brothers $2.8 billion, right? So they get
Mm-hmm.
$3 billion out of the deal if the deal goes through. If the deal doesn't go through, I mean, they get buckets, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also could be really, really bad for Warner Brothers if the deal doesn't go through, because then what do you do, right?
Right.
Then it probably ends up being more like they're going to end up having to sell things off piecemeal, because if the deal doesn't go through, then there's a high likelihood that, even though there's likely a payout that comes from Paramount to Warner Brothers, it's not going to be enough to offset one,
Oh
either
yeah,
the
and
debt they already owe, or whatever they need in terms of being able to keep running, right? And so the truth is, a lot of these IPs and things are probably in some trouble in some way anyway. And what's likely to happen if it doesn't go through is that a lot of it ends up getting sold off piecemeal or something like that, right?
mm-hmm.
To other companies, or something like that. And when that happens, you could have a lot of these IPs end up under so many different banners. You don't have any one place where you can go to kind of get all the things you want, right? There's always an upside and a downside to those things. So look, we'll have to see what happens. It wouldn't be likely to go through until like third quarter of this year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be some pushback and it'll be in the news again. And a week from now, look, they already announced that Netflix was already acquiring them. So a week from now, they could just be like,
Right.
nah,
It
we're not
could be
doing
a
it,
whole
or whatever, right? Like, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Somebody else could scoop in, for all, whatever.
and just do
We'll see.
like Netflix on. We thought that
Um,
was in the bag.
well, again, we talked about it like it could be not in the bag, but it should be probably in the bag. You know what I mean? That
Mm-hmm.
bag had a hole in it, sir. It was in the
Oof.
bag,
Oof. Someone came and
right out the
said,
bag.
"Shank."
Yeah. Let's move on. Hook me up.
Number two.
Uh, Jokes.
Mm-hmm.
You're you're a bit of a first person shooter kind of guy. You
I think so.
dabble in the shooting from first person perspective,
I do.
time and again. You just before we started were mentioning Apex and having not been there for a while but needing to go back. Um well, a lot of the folks who were formerly folks who were at Apex formed their own team, and they had this game that got announced at the Game
Mm-hmm.
Awards, and there was a lot of hubbub about it. Not necessarily good
Mm-hmm.
hubbub about it. But the game was called High Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And look, for all intents and purposes, it seems to be a pretty decent shooter. The people who are playing it seem to be having fun with it. But maybe not quite enough to
I can
maintain
agree.
it. And so,
Because I did play it a little bit when it first dropped, because it
yeah,
was free to download, free to play. So I hopped into it for a
sure,
little bit, and you know what? It was okay. I think is for, at least for me, it was okay. Um,
yeah,
I didn't feel at the time that it was giving me what I needed to be able to sit in this and keep coming back to it. Obviously, it was brand new, so I was expecting it to have a little bit of growth,
yeah,
but yeah,
didn't happen.
nope.
Um, you know, there was an intention for them to launch this game to like with no marketing, no, it was supposed to basically be a shadow drop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they ended up agreeing after Jeff Keighley saw it to allow a trailer to be put. You know, it's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
big deal if Jeff Keighley's like, I want your game to close my show. You know what I mean? Like you feel like, all right. But then for a lot of people, the issue was the game was supposed to be coming out soon, and
Mm-hmm.
they were just like radio silent. There was nothing from, their Twitter. There was nothing from like there was nobody saying anything about the game, which made people worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so unfortunately, their ability to just do a stealth drop and all of a sudden have this game, which was the same thing that Apex did. Like Apex just
Mm-hmm.
kind of dropped out of nowhere. Nobody knew they were making it. Nobody knew it was coming, and then one day it was just here. And the numbers were crazy. Um, Interestingly enough, what they have decided to do is they're gonna put out another character. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
drop a new warden, a new weapon, new account level progression, and skill trees at some point this week. Probably either tonight or tomorrow. Is what they're saying for people to be able to play it until the game shuts down on March 12th. So about 10 days from now, will be the last time this game will be playable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a tough landscape, bro.
It
Gaming
is.
is a really, really tough landscape, and once you realize you're not really competing with other games, you're just
Yeah.
competing for screen time. You know what I mean? You really are competing for screen time. It's a little, it's a little tough.
Yeah. Especially when
Again,
you're
for all intents
jumping,
and purposes.
you jumping
Go
in the
ahead.
ring with some heavy hitters, in that same category. It's like you try to take a similar concept and give it a little bit of a spin to give it that unique feel, that unique look to it, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, this is like, it's still a first person. We're still looting things or doing those similar things where it's just like, oh, if I'm gonna do this here, I guess maybe I'm just gonna go back and spend the time in the thing that I play in the most. So it's one of those things that it's like, it's a dangerous territory to play in, but like you said, when you get props from people like a Jeff Keighley that sees something and is like, yeah, guys, let's get this out here, let's do some things. I want to help put the game in front of people. But I feel like initially, I don't think they did enough to make you really truly want to be interested to jump in and really play this game. Um, it looked like the trailer that we saw, it looked okay, but it didn't look like anything that was like groundbreaking or anything like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest with you, bro, you could probably superimpose the footage of the last 8 shooters that came out, and I wouldn't be able to tell you which
yeah.
one is which. You know what I mean? If it isn't Marvel Rivals, only because there's mostly no guns in it. You know what I mean? And like third person and like a lot. Like if you're gonna do it, you gotta have something to really pull people in. Like
Hmm.
it's not even. It's like the art styles are similar and the gameplay is similar and The maps are similar, and like it just doesn't. There's not enough
Yeah.
variety. You know what I mean in the game type and like why? Even though it's free, you know what I mean. Look at 2XKO. You know what I mean? Like people seem to like it,
Hmm.
and then it drops into 1.0 and people are like, I mean, yeah, I get, it's cool, but like you're really really overdoing it with the piecemealing me for like characters and like
Right.
piecemealing me for like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like that just feels like a bad, it feels like a it feels like bad business to
Yeah.
to drop something like that and be like, well, you buy the characters.
Hmm.
You don't really have a fighting game without characters. I feel the same way about this, right? Like if you just make it free and you're just like,
Here it
we're
is.
gonna
Go
drop
play it.
new,
Like.
yeah, like we're gonna drop new people. We're gonna, I mean, if you've already invested your time in something, if you've
Hmm.
already paid for it, at this point, it's not costing you anything. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
putting something out that's free to play isn't necessarily enough to draw people in. I'm of the mind that like maybe your game needs to cost something, right?
Right.
Like the it being free is not enough of of a removal of a barrier for entry because
Hmm.
if I've been playing any other shooter, even if that money, even if that game costs me money up front, I've already been playing it. I'm already
Hmm.
invested in it. I've already spent money in it. And so technically at this point, I can keep playing it for free at no additional cost to me unless
Hmm.
I want to buy something else that allows me to stack on to what I've already invested in. So if you don't get me to invest in it up front, right? $40, $50, something, right? And give me something for that investment, whatever,
Hmm.
right? Then I'm not literally not bought in. And there's no reason for me to keep. So I'll go there, I'll try it out. Even if I have a good time,
Hmm.
great. Free makes it easy for all my friends to jump into. So that's great. But we're all also already playing another thing we've already put time and effort and money into, right? And so, um, yeah, man, it's just it's really really tough. It's a super tough landscape, and
Throw
I
this up
just
on.
don't imagine that it's a good idea for people to do that. What up, Doctor Who? It's cool. You have replaced Ty as the tardy one. Um, yeah, man, I don't really have any more thoughts on this. My heart goes out to the team. I hope
That's the
everybody
biggest
lands
thing.
on their feet and finds something else they can do and whatever. Because I know when you do something like this as a creative, you put your heart and your soul into it and you want it to do well, obviously. So I feel bad for the team. There is a possibility that the way it ended up getting revealed after the Jeff Keighley thing is part of what killed it, right? That it just wasn't the surprise that people were expecting for, and I think people are already kind of down on it before it had a chance to
Hmm.
really hit. So, um, you know, until 312 when it all goes back down. Hook me up, jokes.
Number three.
Jokes.
Hmm.
We talked about Scream last week. Top three Scream films of all time. People seem to be enjoying it, you know, on our shorts and reels and so forth. Um, the movie came out last week. The
Hmm.
weekend global box office is like $97.2 million, which is a franchise record. It's the
Hmm.
highest grossing Scream opening weekend ever. Does it live up to that, jokes? I'm hearing really, really not good things about this movie,
Yeah.
and then hearing that like, yeah, people are in for the nostalgia of it because they brought back
Yeah.
people that they wanted to see, brought back, like one of the original like writers, producers, or whatever on it.
Hmm.
You went and saw it. I didn't go see it.
Yeah.
Talk to me, bro.
No, so first of all, like, go see it, form your own opinion. But the movie itself is not bad. Like, if you've watched any of the Scream movies for the most part, the formula it's the same. It's the same formula. Like you know what you're gonna get. You you got to figure. You all you think you're gonna learn is what is the difference of the type of Ghostface that we're getting in this one. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything in this conversation, but the movie is good. And I think a lot of people's issues come towards the end of the movie and how things unfold. I think that's the part that I'm seeing is that a lot of people feel that when you get towards the ending, it's a little bit of a lackluster finish. Um,
Okay.
I can kind of agree. Like you probably thought it was going to go one direction, but they ended up going into a totally separate thing. But there's a swerve
Okay.
that you'll get in the movie that's going to make it makes a lot of the stuff that you see from like the commercial things, it makes more sense at it. But by all means, like this movie is not bad. I will tell you, Ghostface elevated a little bit more as far as like the brutality and the way that he goes after the people that he's hunting down. There's a difference in this Ghostface comparison to your other Ghostface. Um,
Okay.
but having, OG characters obviously showing face in this movie, introducing a new batch of people to potentially replace, Jenna Ortega, and I forget the name of the other girl that was in the last two that were the
I
leads in
hate to
it.
say it, but it's not important, dog. It's
It's
not.
not.
Go ahead.
That gets smoothed over real quick. Um,
Okay.
but by all means, like the movie is not bad. If you're a fan of the Scream franchise, like I don't get the hate that it's honestly getting, but it's honestly it's the ending. It is the ending that I feel like most people are upset with. Otherwise, it's Scream.
Jokes. Here's the thing. You haven't sold me. There's
I
no part of
understand.
what I just listened to you say that makes me feel like this is worth a visit
Mm-hmm.
to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when it comes home or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, saying the movie is not bad
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually mean the movie's good. It means the movie is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It means like it could be worse. Is you know what I mean? Is
I
where
know.
I'm
I
at.
get. I
I
get what you're
don't.
saying.
I'm not getting a sense of from you of like, yo, you should really go see it. Like to start off with, like, you know, go see it, form your own opinion. No, sir.
Yeah,
You're forming my opinion for me
I
right
get you.
now.
My thing with it is like so one obviously it's Scream 7. So if you haven't watched any of the Screams, like I can't recommend that you go see this movie without at least watching probably the first couple of movies because there's a lot of callbacks to I would say within the
Hmm.
first couple of Scream movies. This is not something that I can recommend you to go see if you've never seen a Scream movie or you've only seen like one of them for it. The way that this movie honestly is put together more for it is for that die-hard fan that has stuck with Scream over the years, has seen every single one of them, that knows certain elements of different characters in there. It is truly meant for that person that loves the Scream franchise. It's not meant for someone that is just, oh, Scream 7. I've never watched a Scream. Let me go watch this. Obviously, you probably will. There's no way you don't know who Ghostface is, but I feel like this movie will not resonate with people if you haven't seen the other Scream movies. It's number 7. You're neck deep into it. It's not a. This is not like a soft reboot type of thing where we're trying to reestablish characters and kind of start from the beginning. They've done that
Jokes.
technically once
Look, bro.
already,
Just give
but
me just tell me,
mm,
dog. It's the best thing about this movie, the popcorn buckets. Just be straight up.
the popcorn buckets in most of Ghostface's executions, because like this
Okay.
Ghostface does a lot,
I mean,
a
are we
lot
like
more.
Mortal Kombat worthy or like what are we talking here? Like
Hey, listen,
it's
some of these jokes are actually like fatalities. Like you would see, like
I
in
mean
the
they are
like it,
fatalities, aren't they? Like isn't that what did
they're
they hold
more.
on. Let me ask, did they take I mean, because Ghostface is in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
So
It's
Never mind. I don't want to know if they copy one of the joints from there, but just okay.
yeah, no, it's an
Okay.
extra level, but
You didn't waste your money. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't waste my money. No, not at all.
Okay. Okay. But it could certainly be a waste of money for a lot of people. You could understand it
Mm.
feeling like a waste of money for a lot of people, especially if they're
Hmm.
not already in
If they're not
on the
invested, yeah,
franchise.
they will probably come out of it and be like, ugh. But
Are you calling this, if you are a Scream fan, are you calling this a must watch? Like, is it like, if you're a Scream fan, you need to go see this? That's what I don't hear you saying.
I get what you're
I
saying.
just hear you saying it will be better for you if you have. But is it like, you don't want to miss this, go see it in the theater, it's worth the money, pay the money?
So I saw it in Dolby Atmos. I will tell you if you don't have a nice sound system at home, you want to see this in the theater just for like the jump scares and some of the audio and the sound that you hear come from this movie. It is well worth being in the theater to see. I didn't see it in IMAX because I went to the fan event, and the fan event for whatever reason, the fan event was not the one that was in the IMAX showing. I think that was the weirdest. Like, I feel like you would want your fans to be the ones to whatever. That's a whole nother. But I haven't seen it on IMAX to take advantage of, the bigger shoots, the bigger layouts and things on there for it. But to me, the audio that comes from this movie really sells a lot of the moments that are in there for it. Especially if you're a fan of, the Ghostface type music that's playing in the background in certain areas of the movie. Like, you're gonna really enjoy the audio that comes from it. And a lot of the way some of these things are cut too, visually wise. I'm getting
I'm
into
not
K
sure
territory,
you
I know.
answered. I don't think you
I'm getting
answered
into
my
K territory in
question.
the way I'm talking right now.
You didn't. I asked if you are a fan of the franchise, is this a must see? Like, do you need to go to the theater to see this?
Yes, you want to go see this.
That felt. You know what? I'll let the audience decide how they take your response to that. I'm done with it. Listen, that's a wrap for WHHW. What had happened was last week's news is out of here. Now we need to move on. So it's time for us to dig into my top 5 ladies of the traditional MCU. Here's what that means. Over the years, the MCU has grown in
Mm-hmm.
canon because of Disney's purchase of Fox, gave them the X-Men, the Sony stuff. So like this is pure MCU without that. So there will be no X-Men, no Fantastic Four, no like your traditional think
Mm-hmm.
Avengers and in that line Disney Plus shows, that kind of thing. I want to say something. This list much more difficult than I anticipated. Cuz technically when you really look at it, it feels like there aren't a lot of ladies
Mm-hmm.
in the MCU. There are, but on the surface it doesn't necessarily feel like that up front.
Mm-hmm.
Um so trying to take into consideration how I feel about abilities, powers, power sets. Like we're not necessarily talking about the most powerful, but we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about um some of the most well-rounded characters. We're talking about their power and abilities. We're talking about what their storylines are and how that affects them. That's kind of what informed my decisions around this. And again, I'll be real with you, on a different day, this
Mm-hmm.
might be a different list, Joe.
Hmm.
Okay. But number 5 on this list for me is Black Widow. It's Natasha
Hmm.
Romanoff. Um, look, Black Widow is through and through a core Avenger. As a member of that team who has no powers and no money, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's not rich. She doesn't have, you know what I mean? Um, I think that Natasha's storyline throughout the MCU is one of the best storylines in the MCU. The way that she starts off, kind of much more cold and calculated, and so forth. It's a job, and that's all it is. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that she changes over time, even like the slight little things that I didn't really like, the little bit of a relationship with Banner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even that, when I really thought about it, felt to me like they were at least doing something to work on giving you a well-rounded character in terms of like somebody who is at a place in their life where they're like, I might actually wish I could have some sense of normalcy, right? Like I can't have a family, but I kind of have a family here. It might be nice to actually be able to settle down with somebody or something like that. And then pushing herself to the point where she sacrifices herself for the greater good
Mm-hmm.
in the long run because she has all that quote unquote red in her ledger. I just think is um I think that the character and the character arc is it's I think it's actually one of the better character arcs um in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my number 5.
Dig it.
Number 4, I feel like number 4 will be maybe a bit of a surprise too. My number 4 is Yelena Belova. So our new Black Widow, Natasha's sister. Look, she's as if not more capable than her sister, but she's funny. And in a very short period of time, they've managed to actually make you really care, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's lost so much and has been through so much that we technically didn't mostly witness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got a bit of it in the Black Widow movie. Um, her cameos in the Hawkeye show, really good,
Mm-hmm.
very funny. But again, at the end, that banter between that dialogue between she and Hawkeye, where he's really like saying like, no, this is your sister was like my best friend. You know what I mean? Like getting that, coming to that realization, um, where and who she is in terms of her relationship with Val, um, what she means in terms of really being able to be a leader for the Thunderbolts, the new Avengers, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
um, makes me excited to see much more of her, and she quickly has become one of my favorite characters as a whole in the MCU. So that's my number 4.
Dig it.
Number 3. Now, number 3, Jokes, I feel like is a slightly controversial one,
Okay.
and I might regret it. I might regret it. But my number 3 is Captain Marvel. Now, a lot of it is just how powerful Captain Marvel is.
The facts.
A lot of it is just that. It's just pure powerhouse. I really feel like technically they've done a disservice to what could be a much broader storyline for Captain Marvel as a whole. Um, but it really is kind of the like, I'll just fly through your ship, Slim,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you know what I mean? A little bit of attitude. And I'm going to tell you something. The person who, it's a really weird thing. The person who almost ended up as my number 3 is not on the list at all,
Oh.
which is really weird. Um, I'm not going to tell you who that is now. I'm going to save it for the honorable mentions. But again, just Captain Marvel's just, I think overall strength and presence. I really like, and it's kind of hard to beat that. I don't. Again, like Black Widow, either one of them is not going to take her in a fight. There's very few people in the MCU at all who could,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stand up to her, except for Wonder Man now. That's my number 3. Number 2 is Gamora. I think often way overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
What Gamora is capable of and has been through. Again, really, really strong storyline. Really great story arc that is unfortunately doesn't get the opportunity to be explored in
Mm-hmm.
like throughout the MCU as a whole, but for what it is in the Guardians movies as well as in the few ensemble films that Gamora was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Um I have, again, this is really more like my favorites, but I have a lot of respect for Gamora and who she is, and again, what she can do, and what she's been through, and how she, you know, went from again being that very kind of cold, calculated, taught by Thanos daughter that she was to a member of a family of ragtag people that
Mm-hmm.
kind of led, you know, um, I really liked the arc. I was maybe a little disappointed with the way the arc ended in terms of her like not really knowing, us not getting the original back.
Original
But
Gamora back.
um
Yeah.
yeah, but it putting her back in more or less badass status. Like it just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh nah, she's still that kind of a threat. Um, I kind of like my number 1 is Scarlet Witch. Like hands down. Hands down. Um Scarlet Witch might actually have the best story in all of the MCU for all of the characters in the MCU. The For someone who wasn't technically there at the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
came in after the original Avengers film, um, came in as a young kind of an upstart and had to like weave her way through things and learn about her power set,
Mm-hmm.
lose literally everything, her parents, her brother, her country, her boyfriend, husband, her children,
Yeah,
like
but
everything. Like literally lost it all, and went kind of ape. And truthfully, you could see like the extent of what her power set really was like.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's very difficult to not have her, for the sake of her power and the run of her storyline, at the top of my list
I
as a
dig that.
favorite. So those
I
would
gotta
be
throw
my
a
5
couple
favorites.
of
What you got?
throw these up.
All right, so you
It's
apparently
actually
weren't paying attention,
yeah.
Candace, asking where is Storm. Throw the whole list away. Clearly weren't listening when I said traditional MCU, pre-Fox, no X-Men,
Mm,
no, we're talking standard MCU. As of right now, Storm hasn't been in the MCU, but is now technically canon. But that's why I said traditional,
mm-hmm.
in the traditional MCU. Because otherwise,
Storm makes
duh,
the list pretty. It makes the
like
list
duh,
pretty
yeah,
easy and
like
smooth one there.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
same thing. Agreeing with Wanda at the top of the list.
I look, the best characters, whether they're the villains or the heroes, are ones who you feel like you can identify with the pain they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Like you you have that, and that's one of the things that they have done really, really well throughout the MCU. I think that's why the MCU has managed to sustain itself for as long as it has, even as people are saying, "Oh, well, there's superhero fatigue and whatever." Well, we're not necessarily going to the theater to see superheroes. We're going to the
Mm-hmm.
theater to see Steve. You know what I mean? We're going to the theater to see Wanda. What's happening with Wanda and the kids? You know what I mean? Like we don't. generally call them by their quote unquote superhero names because they have given us the people, right? And those people, that's who we feel for, and you can almost see go if you had the kind of power that a Wanda had, if you lost what a Wanda lost, you might take a town captive. Like just be like, I'm gonna just make this what I want it to be. You know what I mean? So yeah, um, that's my top five.
Solid.
Let's move a little bit into these honorable mentions jokes. Um, it was very difficult for me. Again, my number three originally,
Jessica
I ended up
Jones,
removing from the
probably.
list altogether, and that was Valkyrie, who I don't think
Oh,
gets enough credit. Um, her Valkyrie's screen time is low. It
yeah.
is. But in terms of power, in terms of just being funny, in terms of having a decent arc, going from where she was to where she ends up, essentially the king of Asgard, um, on Earth, it's a pretty solid arc, right? And I like her. And if I was picking characters to be on my side for a thing, I'd want I'd want Shorty with me. Um, Shuri. I'm not a fan of Shuri as the Black Panther, which is the reason why she didn't make this list for me. I'm not a fan of Shuri as the Black Panther in the MCU. However, Shuri is just a teenage genius who
Mm-hmm.
can do it all. And like in some manner is like smarter than Vision. Like that's you kind of can't really take that away. She was easily one of my favorite characters just in one film. Just in
Mm-hmm.
one film. And I think the second film kind of pulled, a bit of that away. The third honorable mention I have, this person was also on the list. Um, it's Peggy Carter. Bro, I love Peggy Carter. And we're not talking Captain Britain, Captain Carter. Like, no, I'm talking
No,
about
before.
Peggy Carter. Peggy, I I gets in it with the hands
Mm-hmm.
and started Shield. Peggy Carter, right? Go back, watch the series, watch the show.
Age.
Incredible, brilliant, smart, funny, great arc. You know what I mean? And kind of cool to get to see it come to a happy ending, sort of at the end via Steve. You know what I mean, if you will.
It may
Um,
change come Doomsday now, though.
it most certainly could, but come Doomsday, a lot's gonna change, bro. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I gotta be, yeah. And I'm gonna throw one more out there because power, Hella. I could have cared less about Hella, like comic book wise, but as a villain in Thor, established as a solid threat, um,
Mm-hmm.
really like the only female antagonist we really get. You know what I mean? That
That
poses a threat,
true.
and I think that's saying something. I think that's super important, and so I love that. So again, Women's History Month, putting a stamp on it. Those are my five. Um, you ready to wrap the show up, jokes?
I think we're good.
You sure?
Think
Because you're
so.
at like, like here's the thing. I don't I don't like to take. Yes, I do. I don't really care about wrestling enough to, whatever. But there was an event this past weekend, and under the honorable mention banner, I want to give you a little bit of time to talk about what I personally think was probably like not great. But tell me about what happened over the weekend.
This past weekend, WWE had the Elimination Chamber. This is the final stop on our way to WrestleMania. So this is the last premium live event that we're getting. This gave us our last two uh, views of who is going to be in championship opportunity, with Rhea Ripley winning the women's elimination chamber match and Randy Orton winning the men's elimination chamber matches. They pretty much cemented their spots in being in those matches at WrestleMania. Uh, Overall, elimination chamber solid. if you guys have been tuning in, on the Finisher podcast last episode, me and Marcus had talked about this mystery box that had been showing up over the last few weeks, and we had been talking and trying to figure out what was this actually going to be. If it was going to be a worthwhile thing, or if it was going to kind of be a throwaway thing. I'm going to be honest with you.
Trash.
It was kind of lackluster. Hey, listen, shout out to Marcus. As a joke, he actually got who was in the box correct. And
Called
it
it.
ended up being a gentleman by the name of Danhausen. A lot of people, if you watch AEW, you're familiar with him because that is where he has been mostly known for his
Active.
roles at. So he's a cool addition as a comic relief type of thing, but for him to be like unveiled at Elimination Chamber, potentially being something time, I think it was kind of a letdown moment. But cool to see him in WWE. Like anytime you can make the move over to WWE, it could be a good thing. I'm gonna rephrase that.
Oftentimes, yeah.
It could be a good thing. But otherwise than that, Elimination Chamber is solid. And now we're just setting up the rest of the last few matches to get us into WrestleMania.
Okay. That's an event that's coming up second week of April. But before that, this weekend we have BlurCon. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, VIP stuff on Thursday. If you're VIP and you're heading out, but we will be at BlurCon this weekend, all weekend. Our panel, Being Comfortable Being a Geek, is at 8 o'clock on Friday in the Hilton. So the main part of the convention is in the Hyatt Regency. The Hilton is very close by. Just a short walk. We'll be in the Hilton, in the Richmond room. From 8 to 8:50 on Friday evening. So if you happen to be there, come through, hang out with us. Um, while we kind of tackle being comfortable being a geek from a slightly different perspective and kind of lean a little bit more on like what it means to be black and be a geek and kind of how that has informed who we are and how we work to be and stay comfortable in that space and help other people to do the same thing. So by all means, come through if you're there. We'd love to have you. Come hang out with us. And then the following weekend, we have Awesome Con. So 2 back-to-back cons, 2 weekends in a row. Awesome Con in DC at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. On Friday again, but early. Friday the 13th, no doubt. From 3:30 to 4:15 in room 204 ABC. Jokes and Marcus will be joining the crew for a wrestling panel. You can share a little bit more about what the panel is. Jokes. I mean, I'll be there, but I'm not on the panel, but I'll be there.
For those of you who tune in, you're probably familiar with Ben and Michael, who we've featured on numerous episodes of Finisher Podcast and other wrestling chats. They've invited us to be a part of their Awesome Mania panel. Typically, it's really just a general overall wrestling discussion. Sometimes they put a couple twists, a couple caveats on what type of conversations and things we're going to be having. But it's really going to be an overall general conversation talking about things that are happening, probably some of our favorite things that have been going on throughout the year, leading up to like WrestleMania and different major events. It's always, listen, Ben and Mike, two excellent guys. They're absolutely hilarious. So expect some shenanigans to probably go down within this panel. If you guys can be if you're at AwesomeCon, by all means, come through, have a good time talking about some wrestling.
For sure. And now we get to my favorite part of the show, where we thank you guys. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, for hanging out with us, for dropping comments. Thank you to the lurkers out there listening but not commenting. We appreciate you too. Thank you for all the years of support, or the months, or the weeks, or days of support if you're newer. We truly appreciate it. You have no idea how it helps keep us motivated to keep doing what we're doing. So thank you for being you and for doing what you're doing. On that note, Jokes, tell the folks what I need them to know.
Remember, y'all, just because you have a well thought out plan doesn't make it a good idea.
With that, we're out. Toodles and lose.
Loading snacks.
Tighten it up.